So it's not about we're going to talk about it, because if we're talking about it, we are staying in our heads. People are willing to say a lot and to talk and to listen, but the condition is that they just feel that it's real. But what will you believe, my words or the energy that I'm really radiating? That is what it's about.
Welcome to the Revenue Discussion Podcast. This podcast aims to inspire and educate the newest generation of revenue leaders on various subjects related to sales, marketing, revenue operations, and customer success. Every week, we invite an inspirational guest who is willing to share his or her insight, strategies, and tactics that has worked or are still working for him or her. Today, we've invited Nathalie Van Oost to the show. If you don't know who she is partner at Merluno. And Nathalie has had a very interesting career. At the beginning, she wasn't herself. She was putting a mask, pretending to be someone that wasn't her. And then eventually she got a conversation with herself of how can she be an authentic salesperson, an authentic sales leader eventually. And what she does now is really developing growth mindset, developing consciousness, and inspiring sales leadership among people. I hope you will enjoy this episode. Well, welcome Nathalie to the show. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing fine. Still a little bit sick, but actually doing great. So thank
As
you.
we
How are
speak,
you?
it's 30th of November, so I think it's the period. You don't have to apologize for that at all. I think it's only normal. Nathalie, I am super excited to have you on the show today because you are a people person, and I know that you know a lot of stuff about that. So I definitely want to talk about that. Also about sales mindset, about leadership. But before we do all that, maybe you should introduce yourself for the people that don't know Nathalie yet. And so, who is Nathalie?
Well, in short, so who am I? So I am Nathalie. And in fact, I rather like to talk about what I like. I like to connect with people. And in fact, in everything that I do, even if it's on a personal level, on a professional level, that's what I like the most. So that means I'm one of the partners at Merluno. And in Merluno, I do everything that is people and culture on the inside of the company. And towards customers, I help them with like the role of being a human in business development, in the commercial scene, doing business. That's a little bit what I do in short.
The role of being a human. I love it. Maybe can you give maybe also a little bit of background, like where did you start it and how did you then evolve to being a partner at Merluno?
Yeah. So I started at the company. I think it was in 2010, so 12 years ago already, like almost
Time
13.
flies.
Time flies, yep. Never expected to stay at the same company, by the way, but I did. No, I started almost 30 years ago, and I started as a business developer on the payroll. But there was like always working for different customers, but most of them always had the question like, we need some more opportunities because our sales is not going that well.
And what were you
So
selling back then to understand the context?
yeah, so it was like consultancy, but more in terms of business development, like more
Oh yeah.
operational. We wanted it to be like more holistic business development, but at that time, the word holistic was a little bit fluffy duffy. Today, that's really like somebody that everybody knows about, and it's really
Right.
here already. But at that time, it wasn't. So we helped them to understand the market and to find commercial opportunities for them. But while doing that, we also find out that, sometimes that was not really the real question behind it. So more of it was also like, okay, but are we looking in the right target market? Is our position, our value proposition, is that okay? Are we working with the right people? Do we have the right skills and competences? And then we also, as a company, we evolved. So then I also started to, as a business developer, I saw that I liked to be to connect to people. So that were my first steps then in sales, let us say it like
Yeah.
that. But then as well, I found out like the word sales was not really something that I liked that much because, in my opinion, from my point of view, it was more like, yeah, I don't know the word in English, but like, yeah, the handy sales
Yeah, the
guy.
manipulative, pushy salesperson, always want to persuade, always
Yeah,
want to sell and not help.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was like a process for me too, like to find out, but okay, but what is it that I like about doing sales, and what is it that I don't like about it? And in fact, everything around us is sales. Everything started somewhere from one person who really wanted to, yeah, contribute to the world, and maybe after some other people saw like a lot of opportunity in that, and that's why they also did the same, maybe, probably. But in the core, it's really something beautiful, I guess. And yeah, then that was really a process for me to find out, okay, but what is it that I do like? And I just thought, for me, sales today, it's really about being real with other people, and to connect with people, and to see like, can we contribute something together to the world or to each other, and is it really, meaningful, let us say.
Can I
So
ask,
that is
what was that
the
something
first.
easy for you to do to connect with people, or is that a process that became more and more easily
Mm,
to adopt when you encounter new people, or and is it then
mm,
also something that everybody can learn, or is it just something that comes naturally
mm,
with the person?
yeah. For me, I always liked it to connect with people, but I also felt back in the days when I was 10 years younger, that, how do I say it? I felt in business life that I was not being completely myself, that I was like, putting some mask, to say it like this. I need to be serious now to be taken serious, because I was a woman or a girl at that time, blonde, and I had to, yeah, talk with people with yeah, much more maturity at that time. Sales managers, CEOs of companies, and so on. So there were like a lot of little voices, let us say, in my head. So that was something, like, to be honest to myself, like, okay, but why am I not that authentic? And what is like holding me back from being really myself? And that was the process that I did. So I always, I think you really have to like to be in contact with people, but I do think that it's a process, and not only in sales, but like about being human,
Yeah,
I would say,
exactly.
to really like be yourself. But that seems to be very hard for a lot of
I
people.
was gonna say, I think a lot of people are, I'm not gonna say suffering from that, but you understand what I mean. And I think even myself, I find myself, doing that sometimes. Want to prove
Hmm.
myself, want to sound like someone I'm not per se, or it's okay to also not know stuff. But uh, I think a lot of people, and I hear it also from a lot of people with some years of experience, that in retrospect they look back and they said, when I was younger, I had some kind of mask indeed. But then I'm asking myself, maybe because everybody is going through that phase, it's also okay to go through that phase yourself. And I think having a
Yeah.
mask in the beginning is maybe just the beginning of that phase as well.
Hmm. Might be, and I think it's right what you're saying. But at the other hand, I'm also like wondering, maybe now is the time that we are in an evolution that it won't be necessary anymore. Because why do we need to prove ourselves? And especially in sales, because it's something that you feel it immediately when somebody is like doing his sales pitch, and when it's really like authentic. And who do you choose when the two companies, for example, and they are doing the same thing and the pricing is completely the same? Why do you choose for person A and not for person B? I'll think that that's because you really feel the authenticity and the connection, and that's something that you have to feel. It's not something that you like say with your mind. Oh yeah, with your mind you can say like, oh, the price is way higher for that other company, for example. But I don't know, the guts, to let the gut
Yeah,
also
no,
has its role
definitely.
in. process.
No, and I think that's also interesting because I think that a lot of people still look at sales as you have to prove value, you have to prove ROI, and everything is about the numbers. While probably it can be partly true, and maybe for certain people it's more true than others. But I think also sales is a lot about just human to human connection, indeed, as you said.
And I do think that ROI is important, but I am also convinced that that's an effect of the connection that you have. It's not like the main goal. It's something that comes because of the relationship that you have, and of course, because you have something to offer to another company, to the world. And if that is really like clean and authentic, and it's like a real purpose that really is for the good for all, let us say it like that, then I do believe that ROI will come.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. But I also think, in the context of you have 2 to 3 alternatives, or at least a prospect analyzing 2 to 3 alternatives, and they have to make a selection. Of course, all of the solutions will prove ROI to a certain extent, maybe one more than the other. But I think that they're also having just that human connection, having trust, because trust then means also trust in that ROI. And I think there, you really extrapolate the trust into the different aspects of doing business together. But let's maybe go back, because you were explaining about your transition from initial sales experience to being a partner now at Merluno. But I also read on your LinkedIn profile that you help people at discovering their true potential by developing their growth mindset, developing their consciousness, and inspiring self-leadership. But I want you to tell me more about that, because it sounds interesting, but I want to understand really what is it for you that all of this means.
Yeah. Well, what it means for me is I truly believe that everybody is a leader. It's not. It has nothing to do with whether you're a sales manager or a sales director or a CEO. I mean, that's just a title, but that doesn't define your identity. I mean, when we die, I mean, it's not like put somewhere like, oh, he was this or that or that. No, it's like, yeah, the effect that you had on people, and that is what they will talk about. So what I mean with the leadership and consciousness, and what it means for me is, I truly believe that if we all like feel what is our true potential from ourselves, if we are not like comparing ourselves to others, but if we are really truly embracing our own talents and our own potential, then everybody can really be on his own. Ja, zijn eigen plek, his own
Own
space or his
space.
own place. Yeah. That is what I do while giving trainings as well. Mm.
That's all right. Let's maybe deep dive into that. Finding your own true potential, being in your own place. How do you even start actually by understanding what it is?
Yeah, well, it starts. It's different for everybody, in my opinion, and also the process to find that out. So how I start with that is already like to find out. Okay, but what is it that gives you energy? That you really feel like, okay, there is like an internal flame, and I really want to spread this. And there is like maybe a little bit of stress about it, and to shine that light, but like you feel like it's a healthy kind of stress, you know. But really something, yeah, that you adore. And at the other hand, because that's like, let us say, the light side of it, but at the other side, what is the dark side of it? What is like all the little
Yes.
voices that I have in my head? If I am really truly honest to myself, like, what is going on? Oh, maybe, yeah, I am afraid to call that person or that CEO because, oh, I am afraid of being rejected or something like that. And for me, it really starts there, like starting to really, yeah, be true to yourself, and then like explore it.
Yeah, I think self-awareness is like the most important muscle you gotta flex every day
Yeah,
again.
yeah, yeah.
Because, all right, so I also can imagine that a lot of people can identify in the elements where they get truly a lot of energy from, and also
discover the dark side of things. But do you find it's easy, or from your experience and what you maybe have witnessed, how easy is it for people to also make that transformation happen, to really make something change in their life? Because I think that a lot of people that will listen to this will maybe think, I know what I'm getting a lot of energy from, but then they still are stuck in that same situation, environment, ecosystem they are in. Maybe they need to change things. And from your experience, how easy is it to do so? Or maybe it's not, and maybe what's your thought on that?
Yeah, from my experience, it's not easy at all. Because how come like a lot of people, especially now as well, it's almost the end of the year. A lot of people are like, yeah, and as from next year, I'm going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to change that. But then 1 month later or 1 week later already, it's like, oh, nothing has changed, and I'm still doing the same, or I'm afraid to do that move. And from my point of view, it's like because we do that out of our heads. But if it's just is something that is in our head and we don't really like feel it and we are not like embodying it, then the change won't come that easily. So what I see is first of all, yeah, of course, it starts with being conscious about it, and that is really like a process. And there is, for me, I mean, there is like, yeah, and that needs to be done by that. No, it's something that comes naturally to you if you open up for it. Um, and then when like you feel it and when you're conscious about it, it's really about like really feel it until you're like, and now I'm really sick and tired of it, and then the movement can start. So that's also something that I see like in trainings as well. We can talk about things and then everybody can be there like, yeah, 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 of course. But then when we're going into the details, and I mean like doing exercises using the body,
The actual execution.
yeah, then it's something that people feel like, whoa, I thought I wanted to go to my goal directly, but then you let them do an exercise while moving their body, sorry, towards their outcome, and then you see like the body, it just stays there and it doesn't want to move, for example. That is like the real integration between like, yeah, what the head is thinking and what the heart is feeling and what our gut is saying and doing, because that's where the action is.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. I think everybody ultimately has very ambitious goals, but it's really people that do the step, do the actual execution, that move forward, that will make their ambition or dreams happen. So
Yeah.
I can totally imagine talking and having the great ideas is one step, and then of course you
Yeah.
need that
And it's
execution part.
really about starting the movement. Like, what is the first smallest possible step that you can do already
Yeah,
to start? Because otherwise, it's like in our head, like, oh no, but this is too difficult, or it's not possible at all. And yeah,
and
of
most of the
course, when
time it's not that difficult.
no, no, well, it's not when you start the first move. It's like climbing a mountain. I mean, like if it's like really high, yeah, of course, like in the beginning, oh shit. But when you just start walking, you can also take a rest in between. I mean, there is like, oh, I need to reach the top of the mountain in 1 hour.
100%. Now, if we go back to sales, I think also there, I mean, to link it also to what you said, having true potential, having high energy level, I think they're also super important as a sales is to really be convicted about the thing that you sell, that you yourself truly believe that the product or service that you sell is just wonderful. It's magical. It will actually help people, so that you can actually make the thing that you want to happen a reality. But so, do you also think that way? And maybe also link to that, and that's maybe a second question. How do you feel about, because if you look at the contrary of that is, we just say there is a plan. We don't care about your feeling. There is a plan. There are targets. You need to make it happen, because according to plan, if you achieve what you need to achieve, we will make it happen. And so how do you feel within that balance of those two worlds, where you just have to find a match with yourself, versus you also have to follow a plan, maybe written by other people, which is a lot of the times reality.
I am really convinced that you do need to stand behind the product or technologies or services that you are selling, especially because yeah, if it's not only about believing it, it's also about feeling it, because then it really becomes like your second nature, I would say. It's like if you go to a restaurant and it was really good, what do? You also say it to other people, like, oh my God, you really need to go there because it's like, wow, it was so delicious. But if you don't feel like that enthusiasm about talking about your company or what you do, then for me, I'm not saying that it's always the truth, but for me, that's always already like a small alert, like, how happy or how good do you really feel in the company? Do you really stand behind the values of the company? Is that important or not? And I guess that's a real big evolution that we're seeing now because uh, what I see, because you just mentioned like plans are sometimes made by different people and then you need to execute them. I see that there is like a big evolution there, that people do have more ownership, but then it's like, how do I take that ownership? So then you come back to that leadership part again. And it's I really honestly see a lot of companies, more and more, like, who are like, no, we okay, we do need our return, of course, but it is so much important that we are satisfied with what we're doing, that we are contributing to the world as well, that we are happy, that we are having fun, and that it is a result as from what we are doing, and not that it's like the goal itself. And I also see that's for me, and that's the reason why a lot of people left companies, because they felt like, hey, something is not right anymore. What was I doing? I was just like pursuing money, but without like any something else, without any purpose. And what do I really want in life? And for me, that's also not to say the C word again, but I just did. But I think that was a good evolution, because a lot of people were like, yeah, you were at home, and a lot of people were. So there was space and room to think, to reflect about maybe the things that we thought like there were guarantees. Maybe it's not really the case. And then people were like, but what is life? Oh, life, we need to live. And like not just going to work and do something and then being exhausted at the end of the day and then not having energy anymore for your social life. No, we need to live. And I think that that is something, and from my point of view, that's something that I know. A lot of people were like, yeah, this and this and this I like, and this I like, and oh, that doesn't fit with the company I'm working. Well, then what is another way then? Okay, then I'm just going to another company that does match with my values and with who I am as a person, and that's really something. I really see the movement there, so I'm happy for that.
No, yeah, I see what you mean, and I mean definitely when it comes to having a passion, or I'm not gonna say passion, but at least a high interest in the thing that you sell. I think there, yeah, you should have some kind of goosebump to because indeed it's about feeling it, not about understanding or whatever, and you can explain it well. But I also like the pivot that you made towards company culture, values, just knowing that you belong part of I mean, as part of a community, with your managers, employee, colleagues, etc., like that, so that yeah, you don't have the feeling of moving away from job to job every 2 years. But then you also said something about you have to take ownership as an individual of a company. But what does that actually mean to you, taking
Yeah,
ownership?
yeah. Well, for me, let's keep it simple. You also have like your household, your private household, and you also need to take ownership. You need to pay your bills. You need to keep your house clean and those kind of things. For that you take ownership for your responsibilities that you have in your role.
Yeah, I think proactivity, taking initiatives, for the better cause of the company and the team and stuff like that. That's indeed
Yeah.
what leadership is also. Trying
And
to to accomplish, and maybe
yeah,
talking.
about like, I mean, of course, every person is different, and some people they do not want to lead a team or something like that. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about ownership. It can be also ownership of a team, but it can also be your own ownership of the function that you have in a company. So it's self leadership for me. Mm.
Self leadership, yeah, I can see that, but definitely, and not only indeed in terms of what is the job that you actually have to take, but also in terms of taking responsibility to, I don't know if I like the word of making yourself happy, but at least finding a place for yourself, finding time to do things that you like to do, finding time to educate yourself on stuff that things is important to you. You know what I mean?
I see what you mean. Yeah, and yeah, it resonates. But at the other hand, it's for me. It's not about being happy all of the time because I mean, it's raining as well sometimes, or thunder, and so on. But it's like how you're dealing with things, and that's where the mindset is coming in. Like, do you like? Are you the person who are yeah, do you put your energy on the things that aren't going that good? Or do you put your energy on the things that are going good without neglecting the things that maybe are not that well or something? But I mean, who defines what is good or what is not good?
Right, right. At the end, it's a lot of personal interpretation, I think. Do you give a lot of mindset coaching workshops or anything like that also to salespeople?
Yeah. So, in fact, people, when they come to me or to us, it's mostly because they want to be trained in sales or trained in a specific deal closing or prospection part or business development part. So they're not coming like, hey, I want to train my mindset,
Yeah,
but
more.
it's always integrated. And because I mean, you can't like really see it without that, because especially in sales, you win some, you lose some. It's all about mindset. It's all about how am I dealing with this? Where do I put my energy on? Who am I in this? What does this doing? How do you say this? What does this do to me? So it's always integrated. But it would be my dream that people would come also to us like we just want to have only like mindset training. But when I'm saying
Yeah.
it, I mean, I do like that you make it concrete in your daily life, because otherwise you have like yeah, you can go on your yoga mat or you can do a meditation over there. And I mean, we're not doing yoga or meditation in the training, by the way, because maybe it seems like that now, but it's not at all the case. But I mean, it's not about the in and out. Oh yeah, and on the mats, I'm then Zen and so on. But then in my daily life, oh no, now I'm in a rush. No, no, no. It's about the integration. So in fact, I do like
Yeah,
the
yeah, but
combination.
I've heard a very good quote once. It was, you need to give them what they want to give them what they need. Like they're looking for technical skills, so you kind of give them that because that's what they want, but then you give them what they actually need, and it's the mindset thing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe because I'm very curious actually about that, and maybe we should try to make it tangible. But so suppose, it's I don't know what trainings you give. Maybe it's cold calling. Maybe it's about being in the sales meeting. What kind of mindset issues do you see there, and how do you try to help them
Yeah.
overcome that?
Yeah. Maybe we do need to do an exercise then.
Oh no! Yes, of course. No, let's do it. Let's rock and roll.
Because it's really it all has to do with perception, but a good exercise but it will be hard to do it like this, because yeah, no, I need maybe let me just show you something, and then we'll do it off sites, but then people
Okay.
can also think about it or reflect about it. I will show you my screen, and this is a really fun one. Can you see it's clearly?
Yeah, I see ABA.
Yes, and then you also see C and
Oh yeah,
C.
yeah,
Yeah?
I do.
Okay. So the exercise is like we will connect first of all A with A, and then B with B, and then C with C, but the lines can't cross. What would you do? But we're not really going to do it now because it's not possible now in this scene. But you saw it. So what
Yeah.
is your first reflection?
Uh, yeah, I want to say.
Maybe you need to delete this scene, and then not everybody will like know what you will do.
No. We'll keep it in. I like it. Yeah, maybe you cannot go via another letter to get to that letter. It's a direct
No,
line.
it's a direct line. They can't cross.
I'm
We'll do
also
this exercise later.
I'm super curious to the clue of that exercise.
But
Is it?
maybe I can already give the clue. I think
Yeah.
that can help people because the first thing that people will say is it's not possible at all without crossing the lines. And then they start like, can I move blocks or can I go through a
Yeah.
letter? And what I see, especially and I'm not going to judge, not at all, but especially when I'm training like more engineering kind of people who are also in sales or who are like very rational, they're like, Nathalie, I'm not even going to start the exercise because you're just foolishing me. But then it's like, okay, but what is it that we already can do? Well, we can connect A to A and B to B. And then they start doing that. But what you see is it really like takes a lot of effort to start that movement. And then when they put the lines from A to A and B to B, then they see like, hey, there is a way to connect C to C without crossing the lines. And for me, this exercise, yeah, you have it. Yeah, yeah, voila. You did it in your mind.
Yeah.
That is a clue of it. Like we are so many of the time, a lot of the times in our head, and in our head, it's like it's not possible. So we're not even going to start. But it's like, okay, but if I already start, and that is a movement with your body, that's a real action, then you see like, hey, now we are opening our mindset and now we do see solutions and possibilities. And especially these days, a lot has to do with innovation and in sales. I mean, you do need to believe that there are options. If there are not options, okay, but what are alternatives then? And I mean, that is like, and it's like exercises like this that is really helping to work on the mindset. So it's not about we're going to talk about it, because if we're talking about it, we are staying in our heads. And that is, well, I would say it's not going to bring us anywhere because, yeah, it will. But then it's just something from the mind and not a lot will change. Somebody can say to you, how are you? Oh, yeah. No, sorry, that was wrong. Yeah, oh, yeah, I'm feeling that sad, for example, or vice versa.
Yeah.
But what will you believe? My words or the energy that I'm really radiating? That is what it's about. So it's like really making that click inside of you. And then,
Embody what you feel,
yeah,
what you are. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And then action will come. And then a lot of things will start to be possible.
I like that. Well, thanks for giving me that exercise. I think that's what people internally of the listeners can also try in a company to open up the mindset, the viewpoints, the perspectives. Now, if you look at sales also, because I think also there is. I mean, you can look at sales as in, and I know that for people that don't like sales, and don't want to be pushy at all, but just want to connect, they reach out, connect, and then they have that initial conversation, and then ultimately they present what they could do to actually improve the situation of the prospect, and that is sales to them. While you also have, and I'm not gonna say the more cliche sales because I don't wanna put the Wolf of Wall Street image into your mind, but I will say the salesperson that also want to challenge the prospect, that also wants to make them realize that there can be other alternatives, really change the beliefs around some things, eliminating the false beliefs, giving alternatives, And there it's not really about presenting anymore, but more about persuasion. And I'm kind of curious, how do you then like look at both of those situations?
Hmm. For me, it's about co-creation with the customer, and it starts with listening. So where are they today? Who are they? What is important for them? Where do they want to go? What are they looking at? What is important? What are the alternatives that they are already looking at? And that for me, it's not really about convincing, but it's also, in fact, it's also this exercise again. It's to also help them to like broaden their way of how they look at things. And then to find out, okay, can we co-create something together? So for me, it's like not or this or that, but sales, it's I won't say convincing, but it's like challenging is good, I guess, if it comes from the right place. If it's not like I'm going to challenge that person because oh yeah, he needs to write with a big
Yeah,
at a Wolf of Wall Street kind of tips and
right.
tricks. It's not, but just like opening perspectives. Like, hey, what if we would look at it from this way or something? I mean, this is also an example that I give a lot. If I would draw a six here, yeah, for you that's a nine, but for me it's a six. So I don't want to convince you to see it as also as a six, but I am curious to understand why you see it as a nine. And if I start to listen to you first, then you will also feel that I am really interested and it's really authentic because it will be. And then it will be as also for you, it will be much more easier to then understand, okay, and now I am also curious to understand why you see that as a six. And then you really have a conversation. And then it might be that there won't be any sales, and that's okay. But it might also be that your customer is going to say, whoa, I never looked at it that way. That's interesting. And then you really start. So, and that is what I really, really like.
Yeah, I love that. That's what I get goosebumps from, by the way. Just having that click in someone's eyes by indeed challenging with the good intentions. That's definitely sales. I agree with
And
that.
that's not pushing, not at all.
No, I agree. I agree. Now you also, I don't know if it was on your LinkedIn or on the website, but as I read something about proactive communication, and the word proactive was there definitely.
Yeah.
And I wanna understand why proactive communication is what you need to do
Yeah.
in business development or in sales.
Yeah, very important one if you ask me. Um, yeah, why is it important?
Oh, what do you mean also with being proactive in the communication?
Yeah, well, a good example. Let's keep it in the sales context. I I had a meeting, for example, with a customer or with a prospect, and they said, "Oh yeah, it might be interesting. I want to have a proposal." So you make a proposal, and then what I see a lot is people they are sending out the proposal, and then they don't get any response back. And then it's like, yeah, but the customer, they will come back to me if they are interested or not. So you are in the waiting mode. And then what happens? Oh, yeah, I made a lot of offers, but none of them are closed. Or, yeah, I closed some, but it's not good enough. And then I'm asking, like, okay, but what is holding you back to, like, just call your customer? Because what people also do a lot is like, yeah, but I wrote him an email. Nice, but what happens? I mean, I'm not going too deep in this, but yeah, look for yourself. You have like mails coming in and something that is not on your priority at that moment. You see it, and what do you think? Or at least I am like that. Yeah, I will respond later. But then you are in other things and you just forget it without having that intention. So it's so important to just call your customer because then you have like the interaction and without being pushy or stalking, because that's not about, I mean, that's not what we are talking about. It's just like if it's something that you really truly feel and that it's yeah it's important and that you contribute, why won't you like do follow up? So that's for the closing part. But also, and maybe that's even much more important or interesting, is yeah, today people are informed a lot. So if they are looking for a partner or for something, what do? They ask their network or they have a look on Mr. Google and then they find a partner. So yeah, waiting for customers to come. I will say it's good when they come, but there's like a lot of more potential. So why being afraid to just reach out to your potential customers? And that is something that I see. Like a lot of people are like, yeah, but I'm not going to disrupt them, or they are not waiting for me, or this or that, or there were like a lot of voices, a lot of resistances. And I get it because I'm also the person who's like, yeah, I don't want people just to call me and to do their sales pitch. Yeah, no, not about that.
Nobody wants that. Nobody's
No,
waiting for that.
no. But I mean, if you are like just curious, like I just want to get to know that company and that people, that person, well, also this, and this is really hard to talk about it if you don't like experience it, but people are willing to say a lot and to talk and to listen, but the condition is that they just feel that it's real, and that is when it gets difficult for people because what happens when people are proactively reaching out to people that they do not know, they are like, oh, I'm afraid. And then the ego is coming in. And that is what makes that there is like a wall in between, makes that there isn't a real authentic connection anymore. And then it's not working. But and I also do it sometimes still, and I did it a lot. One of our biggest customers, I mean, I just called them back in the days because we did a lot of activities in IT and telecom and in tech. But then we also moved to industry, and I don't know, I was just like, it I resonated with that sector. I studied economics, so I'm not an engineer at all. And then I just called them and I was just curious, like, okay, but who is actually in charge for new business development? And how do you do that? And where do you see still potential on the market? And what are your challenges? And to what extent are you also looking for external partners, or what is important for you in a partner? And then he really was like, I feel that you are really listening to me, and that's the reason that I want to sit together. And then, yeah, they
Lovely.
also had projects, and then I mean, it was like done in 3 months. But this is like a successful case, of course. But because, yeah, you are not talking. Of course, you are talking to a company, but you are talking to that person, and that's why I do think that proactive communication, because I see that I went through a lot of things now, but as to come back to proactive communication, yeah, it's about doing business. You need interactions with people, and that is what I do mean. And I see like a lot is done now via growth marketing, and I do like it, but I'm still convinced that if you're, yeah, active in more complex or innovation things, or consultancy services, interaction will always be necessary. So that maybe it might be the only thing that distinguish you. Do you say it like this? But I do think that
Distinguish.
everyone will understand what I mean from other people. So it's your personal identity that you can then share. People buy from people.
100%. And I also think, indeed, as a sales, you have to be in control because everyone has its own agenda, and all the priorities are so diverse for
Yep.
everyone. And I think, indeed, you as a sales rep, your priority is to generate new business, even though, I mean, and that's also another question I had for you, but I will come to that later. But I did indeed, as a sales, because you have to generate business, it's going to be for you a bigger priority than for the buyer, the prospects, unless of
Mhm.
course it is also their priority. In that case, I mean, deal's going to
Yep.
be pretty easy compared to others. But I totally agree with, you have to be proactive, you have to be in control. But I
Mhm.
was going to ask about how do you feel about detaching yourself as a sales from the outcome, from closing a deal? Because it is your responsibility as a sales to generate new business. So it is super counterintuitive to say, I don't have to close something, while actually that's the job you got to do.
Yeah.
So how do
Yeah.
you...
Yeah. I do like this question.
Yes.
Because that's what it's all about. Yeah.
It has a lot to
Um,
do with that.
Yeah, and it's like really trusting that. I mean, we are all like focused on, yeah, the deal, the deal, the deal. But I mean, the deal, it's like the end of the process. To have a deal, you have to have offers. To have the offers, you have to have conversations with the right decision makers in the right companies. To have these conversations, you have to approach them, you have to interact with them, you have to make sure that you know who is my real target market, who are my decision makers. You will need to make sure, like, how am I going to position myself? So there are a lot of steps involved. And it all has to do to start up a relationship. And that was also an example that I wanted to give you, and it really resonates with this question. So I'm really happy. It's like when you have like your wife, and when you are married, what did you do? You didn't like, oh, I see that lady over there. Oh, and here is a ring. Here, you need to marry me. That's not what you do in real life. I mean, you start to connect, and you start to like get to know each other. And then if you feel, hey, this resonates, then you start to working together, or you start the relationship. And maybe there is a relationship, and then you want to marry each other. And then after that after that first work experience, the collaboration that you have together, then you can also see, hey, this resonates. Let's work together endlessly, for example. And that is how you create also ambassadors. So, I mean, but it's really very subtle, of course, and especially when then you have targets from your boss, and you want to prove yourself because you are eager and you are new in sales. And especially when then you are working for an American company who are only like looking at the numbers.
Exactly.
I get it, but then, and I'm just going to say it as I feel it, but then if you feel that that is not something that matches with you, then the question I think that you have to ask yourself is like, do I resonate with this company or not? And if you do resonate with the company, great. But what is it then that you can change to like work and to like not being in that stress and that rat race? And I mean, that is like not, it's not sustainable. I mean, people who worked like that in the past, I can honestly say that 80% of them, they are now like, oh my God, why did I do that? I mean, I was successful, I closed the deals, but if I'm honest with myself, I wasn't even happy. I was also brutal to other people. Why did I do that? But I didn't know from something else, to
That
say it
was the
like
way
this.
to do it, yeah. And of course,
Yeah,
you try to
yeah.
follow at least the guidelines. Yeah,
And
no.
that is why I think it's important that there is like a lot of leadership, especially also in sales, but in fact everywhere in the world, that we start to see that, and that we start like to act more from our heart. And I know that it also is like fluffy duffy, but I mean, holistic was also fluffy duffy 10 years ago. So I truly believe that that is the way to go to do business together, like not only like the male energy and the yang and yeah and the power and let's do this and her, but more the feminine power as well, and like, okay, trusting and surrendering and purpose, contribution, caring, and the combination of those two,
I
not
love that.
or the one or the other, but really like the blending.
Yeah. And I definitely hope that we are evolving towards that direction. I think we are, if
We
I
are
can be
already.
honest.
Yeah.
At least from a Belgian perspective. I don't know how it is in the US, because there indeed it is a lot about we have numbers and we have to work according to them. But definitely I can see a trend.
Yeah, of course.
Something I wanna touch on is also about leadership. And maybe I just should start a question. Leadership. What does that actually mean to you? and then I also want to link back this topic to sales.
Okay. Well, it's a little bit for what I said before. It's like for me, the leadership is just really linked to ownership as well, like taking care of yourself, and then your household, and then your company or your role or your team.
Yeah, because I think also, I mean, how I also look at leadership is that maybe, it's about also inspiring others, motivating others. And I feel that sales sometimes is also about, but then towards the prospect, trying to inspire them, challenge them, motivate them to do something that they don't do yet. And so I see there, in terms of a goal as a person, a lot of similarities between what is a leader and what is also a salesperson. And so I don't know, have you ever thought of that, or do you sometimes also look at sales through the lens of a leader?
Um, I would say I rather look through everybody as a leader, no matter in what kind of function you are. And how to say this simple? For me, like inspiring and you don't need to do that. It's something what you do automatically if you have leadership of your own life. And what also is coming in my mind now is leadership. It's for me. It's also to really live your life and acting out of that. So I don't know if that is like an answer on your question, but
Yeah, well, you are definitely consistent in what you truly believe. And I see why, it's really working at the true source. It is working at yourself. And maybe one of the last questions I will ask you is, have you ever had a personal coach, life coach, or someone that can actually find that fire in you and really find you, help you with your self-awareness and self-identity?
yes. I think I started 6 years or 7 years ago. I started my own path in personal development, let us say. Well, on a conscious level, of course. And then I also work together with a personal coach because it's nice to be challenged. And like, because sometimes you just don't see it yourself or you don't feel it because there's like the awareness is not yet there. And then it's nice to have somebody like to challenge you or something. But I don't have like a personal coach anymore, but I still do a lot of personal development things, a lot of different kind of things, like also retreats and some things like that, because I do think it's an eternal process. It never stops.
Yeah, and I think that in some way it's also maybe the responsibility of business leaders, business owners, I mean C-level executives, to also provide those kind of coaching services to their employees. Don't you think that in some way it should be great to also having those? I mean, everybody should be a coach to someone, I feel, you know?
Everybody's a teacher to each other. That but it's just like if you're open to see it like that. And I mean, sometimes it's also funny. I had it's sort of a training last weekend. It was inner alchemy, and there they mentioned as well, like in a way it's a little bit of arrogant to only look at certain people and to only believe them, like, oh, if they say it, then I do believe it, but if somebody else is saying it, then I don't believe it, because then it's like, yeah, you're not feeling for yourself what is resonating with me and what is not. Then you're just like, yeah, putting somebody else on a pillar,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to take whatever he's saying. Yeah, I'm just going, that is the truth. But what is the truth? I mean, it does not exist. I mean, everybody needs to feel for themselves.
I find myself guilty of doing that with some people as well. I think, but it's also because I trust them, you know? I trust
Yeah,
them, and so I really want to take what they say as the truth. And that's maybe also something dangerous. I mean, kind of
well,
reflect on it right now, but
it's always good just to feel and to notice for yourself. Okay, is this resonating with me or not?
Yeah.
It's like when I was saying like, hey, this is a 6, but then for you it's a 9. Well, then it's a 9, and that's okay. You don't just need to believe everything that somebody else is saying,
No, true. 100%.
because then you're also keeping yourself small. Well, I mean, a student teacher phase, and in fact, everybody is a student and everybody is a teacher. And if we can see it like that, and that's the same in sales, by the way, if we can see everybody just like, okay, another human being and another company wants to contribute to the world and do something good, well, good, then we are helping each other. So why would we then think that we need to convince somebody if we all like agree on the same things? Well, of course, we're not going to agree everybody and everyone with, but then your circle, you will also attract the companies that are a match with you, and then vice versa.
Stuff to think about, Nathalie. Thank you so much for coming on the show. But Nathalie, if people want to find out more about you, about Merluno, they want to work with you, where would you like to send them?
Yeah, well, they can send me an email on, I don't know if I need to give my email address, but it's like Nathalie, Nathalie point Van Oost, VANOOST at Merluno, MERLONOUNO, sorry.
We'll make
Or
sure to put it in the show notes.
www.merluno.com. Yes,
All
.com.
right.
Yeah.
No, awesome. Nathalie, well, I have one last question for you, a question I ask every guest on the show. And I think I have a kind of an idea what your answer will be. But if Nathalie was a brand, what would it stand for?
Well, now I'm curious what you are going to say. But yeah, authentic lifestyle, something like that.
100%.
Yeah.
Authentic lifestyle. Well, I will take that as an answer. Again, Nathalie, thank you so much for coming on the show. And I wish
Thank you for the invitation.
it was a pleasure to have you. Wishing you only the best.
Thank you. You too. Bye bye.